Hey everybody. So when it comes to AI and businesses, kind of the number one, I would say, like pushback or objective that I get from people, objection that I get from people when it comes to AI overall is that they still think that like a large number of people still think that there's like hidden tech within the AI companies, right? That like OpenAI especially it would has like some sort of like hidden tech in their back room that they just haven't released yet to the public, and that like there's going to be some like what's the big breakthrough that these like one of these companies is going to make to essentially like monopolize the industry, right? And I deal with that a lot, and then what ends like so I push back on it some, and then like if the like generally speaking, I just end up like deploying Chat GPT for that particular client, right? Because it's like I like there's no to me like you start digging yourself into a hole once you start pushing back on that objection too hard with someone that has that particular mindset, right? And then it's because once you start pushing back on it, then their first instinct is like, what is your like internal motive for pushing back, right? That's what they always come back to within it, and it's there is no internal motive. It's just an analysis of the landscape as it's been and as it will be and as it will continue to be, and just a actual understanding of these things, right? And then like the next kind of pushback that they generally give is like, well, like how do you know, right? Like do you know actually know like researchers at like institutions and big AI companies? And yeah, like yes, like I mean like uh, I've like the most simplistic way that I can answer that is like if I had to get a CEO or a individual from like any like literally any AI company or a lot of large institutions, I could easily do so. I haven't like there's no reason for me to flex and do that, but I 100% have that within my network ability to be able to do that like at any time, right? Like so it's not coming at this from a perspective of like, this is just purely my opinion, right? And I always like to ground things on that, here's my stance on it, but this isn't just purely my opinion, right? And then so I'm going to do that 100% for and within this video as well. I'm going to show you essentially, I'm going to lay this out by looking at all of the leaderboards or a series of leaderboards that currently exist for AI. And then so if you're a researcher or into research, you're probably very familiar with at least some of these leaderboards, right? But there's leaderboards for everything when it comes to AI at this point. And then so you can get an actual good idea of where everything is, and you can use these leaderboards to track a lot of things, right? And so with that, I'll go through this. And I like the very first thing that I want to make apparent and very clear up front within this is that on a lot of these leaderboards, you're going to see that Google is currently beating OpenAI, right? On a lot of these, and that is a trend that has started within the last like 6 months or so. Prior to that, it was like there was OpenAI was like top of these leaderboards, and there'd be like a big gap, and then that gap started to close, and then OpenAI would no longer be like purely at the top, and then also the other pattern that you're going to see within this is that open source models are coming more and more and closer to that top spot, right? And then so all of these overall should paint the picture to you very clearly that there is no hidden tech within this at this point, right? If there were hidden tech, these companies would have unleashed it already, is kind of the bottom line within it. So starting off with text, right? It's pure text generation. Gemini 2.5 Pro is top of the hill within this. A lot of people say that ChatGPT sucks when it comes to like actual getting it to do what you want as far as like copy, text, things like that. I 1,000,000% agree. Like I don't use ChatGPT for text, creative copy, etc., and haven't for a long time. I've used Google for about 3 years when it comes to those things off and on, right? And then within the last 6 months, Google again has reclaimed their advantage in that arena. Like if there's a chance that anyone has tech that they're holding off at this point, it's Google flat out. And then so, but like I don't like I don't think that they have a lot that they could be holding back. And then so when it comes to text generation, Google is number one right now, followed by Anthropic. And then you can see these. There's a lot of ties within these, right? So it's a 1-and-1 between Google and Anthropic, and then a 2 between OpenAI's models, all of OpenAI's models basically, and then Cloud 4 Opus. And then in third place, you've got Quinn, right? So the open source model. So top three is the number 3 spot on this is Quinn. And then you're talking like, look at the score difference isn't that big of a difference, right? 1433 compared to 1453 is the gap that we're looking at. And then these numbers, these ELO numbers and these scores are pretty significant to mention within this and to talk about and dissect within this as well, right? So I'd say that GPT-4 would be the kind of baseline for all of these scores. And then if you go back in the day, like GPT-4 when it came out was I think like a 12-15, we'll call it, on these scores, right? By the time they tuned it up and it was like the end model. And then so GPT-4 was like a 12-15, and then you had the Llama model, Vicuna, things like that, and they were in like the 900s or 800s compared to that 1200, and that was the gap there, right? Just to give you an idea, there was a Bard was like 1100 or something, and then so big massive gaps within that, right? And then it very clearly OpenAI was clearly ahead of every competitor within that, and now you're seeing 1453 for first compared to 1433 for second, a 20-point difference and a 20-point gap, and that third place competitor is an open source model. So that's again the ELO range hasn't gone up. I mean, it's gone up about 200 points in 3 years, and then the gap between on the top end, right? But the gap between, so the open source models 3 years ago were in the 800s, and then now they're a 1433. So that, I mean, that gives you kind of that trajectory, right? And then again, if they were holding back, that pattern wouldn't occur, right? And then we can look at web development. So these leaderboards break into individual components of these. And then so there's certain areas where OpenAI is focusing harder than others. There's two primarily in my mind: web development and math reasoning. And then that's where OpenAI still has a slight, the tiniest edge, over research edge over other companies but that edge is closing, right? So on web dev, GPT-5, and then also too, so this is GPT-5 high, so it's like that $200 research model, right? It's not even the paid model, and then so it's it's a 1480 compared to Claude Opus 4.1 Thinking, which is again their top line too, at a 1468. So a 12-point gap there. And then they're putting GPT-5 and then Claude as the tied for third within this, and then fourth, and then tied for a fourth is the Gemini 2.5 Pro, and then again the open source model within that, right? And then on this one, below, then you get Claude 4 Opus, and then three more open source models in tied for fifth, and then through seventh place. And then so you can see again that those same patterns emerging there, and the ELO gap between between 1 and 4, there's still a bit of a gap here, right? Again, this is because it's the most profitable area to build this out, right? So but you can see the research, billion, all of the dollar monetary advantage that these companies have is getting them currently a 50-point ELO difference on these metrics. Vision. So this is where Google is again in this arena. So we're gonna see vision, text to image, and in this area, Google is number one currently, hands down within this. OpenAI is lagging in this arena, right? And then so with vision, you can very clearly see that so this is Nano Banana, the Gemini 2.5 Pro, 1242. And then you've got the ChatGPT 4.0 Vision at 1235. So it's they don't their GPT-5 Vision model is down here, right below. It's in the first of third place, below even the first open source model on this list, which is like in the second place rung for it. So you can see like they haven't advanced in this, right? So again, if they were holding back technology, why is their 4.0 and their 4.5 models doing better in this arena than their 5 model? Like, it just, you can look at these things to just understand the basic math behind that, right? And then text to image, like, so again, Google's number one in this, right, by one ELO point, and then in second place you've got the open source in second place, and like so, open source is half of the top of text to image right now, and then that's also a pattern for image editing too. So then if you look at image editing, text to image, and vision, right? So Nano Banana it set a new benchmark within these things, but it was reverse engineered very quickly, and that's, I think, like a lot of people don't understand that aspect of it, right? And then so it's like the open source models can already compete with it. Like if there's the biggest lack of a moat within AI right now is in this area. I don't think people understand that, like, at all, right? Like it's not in the LLM model. Everyone goes towards the LLM models, but like vision, text to image, image editing, everything around vision and image is all like there's more and more and newer research coming out around it on a daily basis, right? And then the big thing with that is that there's been more, like, so again, going back up here, right? GPT-4 was we'll call it a 1215 on this leaderboard here, and then we're at a 1453. So we've gotten like 250 ELO points or so higher here, right? On these on these benchmarks, the starting ELO 2 years ago was far lower than the starting benchmarks for these, right? So there's actually been significant and massive gains within this. But then you can also see like these ELO scores aren't high compared to the ELO scores of text and web dev, because the research in these areas is newer. For the research, the model architecture overall is kind of what it boils down to, right? Because now everything is so. Within before the start of 2025, you had all different models like Midjourney and all of that, and competing right there. Midjourney is not even on these lists, right? And then the thing that changed was the diffusion and transformer model, and then so diffusion and transformer models get big, and then reinforcement learning of vision models, and then VLM models, and then so which creates VLM models, and then so that creates this whole new class of models around this, which is also tied directly into multimodality, which has been a fusion problem that the community has been the research community has been trying to solve for the last few years, and that's kind of been the biggest and hurdle within that. And then the other thing that I think the general public doesn't understand, why so much research comes out in this in general, and then why it just is open source, all of it just gets open source immediately, is because so this very specifically, in this solving this is, if you're in the camp that AGI is near and AGI can be achievable with transformers, this you want this to be solved, and then you need this to be solved, and then so there's a bunch of people that are in that camp that are just that are with that goal in mind, right? They're not researching the same way or researching the same things, but they're researching for this and around this because it hits their goal that they need. It's this area specifically has a cross section of a lot of different interests of people that are interested overall, right? Which is this is a good example and comparison against that, which would be search, right? And search is it's pure, to me it's a pure, the only people that are breaking it down on a bottom line, like that are going to be significantly interested in this are the big players that are already interested in search, right? Or people that want to upset those big players, and that's what you see, right? So XAI, like that's the one arena where you see XAI on this particular leaderboard, right? Because that's like their one little area that like they can go into and actually like be something within this, because it's uh, an aspect of it that is, I mean, the bottom line, it's this research and this our area is really only applicable to the big corporations. As you can see, like it's, you don't have anything resembling like an open source company until like number 6 like on that list, right? And then same thing with copilots too, right? It's the same thing there. And then so then we get here to the like a full overall arena overview. And then so as you can see here, like, so this is like the like current leaderboard as it currently stands. For like across the board models, and then tied for first place on this leaderboard is Claude Opus and Gemini 2.5. Tied for second place is all of the OpenAI models, and then also to Claude 4 Opus 4.1. And then in third place, you've got the open source model Quinn 3 Max Preview. So then it's and then Grok 4 is coming in at 7th, right? And then that's kind of how that goes at. So like all of the significant investment from XAI and buying researchers, and then from Meta's nowhere on here, right? Like you can see like money doesn't correlate within this. Like there's like I can't explain that enough to people to understand that like just dumping money into these models is kind of lighting it on fire is the simplest way. But like and then so let's dive deeper into more granular leaderboards and examining them within this, right? So then the first one we're going to look at is this deep research bench, which is a comprehensive benchmark for deep research agents. And then so like that, like the when you set it and it takes like 10 minutes to like go out and do its thing and then come back, that's like deep research, right? And then so that's a big topic and a big thing within AI overall right now. And then what you can see is that like the top model, first of all, the top model within this is still under like 50% overall when it comes to that particular task. Accuracy is about 78, like overall correlation accuracy is about 78.3. But so just highlighting that up front. Secondarily thing is that, again, it's Gemini 2.5 Pro. So it's, again, Google at the top of this list, OpenAI 3 points behind, right? And then Claude is right there. And then open source, your first open source model at 4, second open source model at 5, third open source model at 6, NVIDIA at 7, Perplexity at 8, Grok at 9. And then that's like and then another open source model, like the open source models on this particular arena and this particular benchmark are like they're rounding out more of the top 10 than the closed source models. Like, so again, if there's tech that's being held back within this, like, where's it at? They would be releasing it, because if more people actually understood like these types of benchmarks and looked into it, they would be in trouble, right? And then especially like examining it with a benchmark that gives you figures like this, right? And then so this particular leaderboard is agents, and then so a lot of people won't like care about that overall, right? And then so this is examining agent efficiency. So they measure it based off of task completion, tool selection, cost efficiency, domain coverage, and speed versus accuracy. Cost efficiency, throw that out here because I'm going to show you, right? So then we go here to the arena leaderboard, and their first one, so that they're like open again when it comes to like the things that are the most that you can squeeze every single dollar out of. OpenAI is investing like, because they have like they're investing like 100x more than anyone else in that arena, and then it's getting them. They're getting at their overall average completion percentage, which to me is what matters at the end of the day, is 1 point higher, 0.62 compared to 0.61, and that's Mistral, and the second place within that is Mistral. And then so whether or not you want to call Mistral proprietary, like where you want to put Mistral within that proprietary versus like to me, Mistral is outside of these companies, right? And then like the big tech companies and the big American tech companies. So we can like that's at least framing within that. But you can see here it's the it's not putting OpenAI at significant advantage. Like they don't have tech that no one else in the world has released around this, right? And then if you look at their average turns are very high. They have the high, like you want this number to be low, like lower better is good on this, right? And then you can see there's models that are like the Quinn 3 model smacks GP. Like so the Quinn 3 model is out researched in this particular area compared to this model here, right? And then so highlighting those things, and then look biggest thing within this though is look at the cost within this, right? So in order to run this model, you're like to run it for an average task is going to cost you, we're going to call it 7 cents, right? If you want to use this Mistral model, it would cost you 2 cents. If you wanted to use the GPT-4.1 model, 1 cent, and then so like and then Quinn 3, you're talking like you get into fractions of a cent when you get it down to this point and into this area, right? And then that's kind of where everything goes through and ends up as a result of this on these benchmarks. And then the last one that we can look at here is text-to-speech very specifically. And then so looking at a arena and benchmarks that are completely away from LLM models and then from that technology overall. And then within this leaderboard, what you can see here is that it's like essentially like the top are all essentially companies that you've never heard of, right? It's like the number 6 is, and number 7 is 11 labs. And then which number 6 and 7 and 8 are 11 labs, right? But then the rest are just anyone can come in and research into this arena and then put themselves at the top right now within this, right? Like, and like the lack of moat, any moat within this is the bottom line that I can't stress enough. And then if you look at the ELO scores here, these ELO scores are the highest ELO scores out of any of them. It would be the second thing to highlight, right? The top model here is 1686, so almost 1700. Like text-to-speech is the closest to solved out of all of these technologies. The one that has the least amount of moat overall out of all of these technologies is around the text to video, image to video, and then image edit. The ones where essentially Google is number 1 is around like creative writing, text, everything like that. The only slight small advantage that OpenAI currently has, and like a lot of like they're neck and neck, right? So a lot of people prefer Opus 4.1 over GPT-5, and you can't knock it, right? But so that like if you want to say that there's edge or competitive advantage there, that's where you have the slightest one. But then like the open source models are solving and coming up on that again, right? There's nothing proprietary being held back, etc. That is going to leapfrog any of these companies within these things. Is the most simplistic bottom line a way that I can put and frame these things overall. And then so here it is. I'll leave a link to these benchmarks and these leaderboards if you want to check them out yourself. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.